Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to this live webinar. That's 2015 Cyber Threat Report called How to Stop Your Company from Being a Statistic. I'm your host and presenter today, Leia Shilobod, President of InTech Solutions. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. This is a live webinar, so the phone lines have been muted. That means that you can hear us, but we can't hear you. Today I also have a special guest with me, Peter Nikolaidis of Paradigm Consulting. He is a CISSP, that's a Certified Information Systems Security Professional. He's based out of New England, and he's going to be talking with us a little later about some simple security principles and the cyber landscape as he sees it for 2015. Now, we're going to be presenting a lot of valuable information and quite a bit of it, and we're going to move through it rather quickly. So make sure that you take notes. At the end of the webinar, as long as we have enough time, we're going to open up the lines for some Q&A. And I want to make sure that we are respectful of your time and try to keep this to an hour, so let's go ahead and get started. First, I want to tell you a little bit about myself so you can understand my background and where I get my information about cyber threats and how to protect your company. As you know, I am the founder of InTech Solutions. We founded InTech Solutions in 2006. I did give myself the self-moniker, the IT Princess of Power, and that's because if you're going to do anything all the time, you should definitely have fun doing it. I'm also a member of the FBI's InfraGard team. InfraGard is a network of thousands of lay professionals who are vetted by the FBI to be able to work collaboratively with them to improve threat awareness and preparedness for businesses. And we give information back and forth between the FBI when they see exploits or issues going on. They send us briefings, and they also ask us to look for patterns and to report incidences back to them so that they can track cyber actors. We also meet quarterly with CISSPs and security engineers from the top antivirus firms from around the country to get our information. And I recently published my first book, The 3 Indispensable Rules Every Manufacturer Must Know Before Purchasing Any IT Product or Service. It is currently available on Amazon.com. However, if you'd like to have a free copy, you can go to www.intechit.net/3rulesbook, and you can pick up a copy of that just by filling in the form that's on that page. Okay, so let's get started. What are we going to learn today? Today we're going to talk about some recent threats, some things that are actually in the news and some that you are not aware of. We're going to talk about the threat outlook for 2015. We're going to discuss the impacts of those threats on your business. And then I'm going to give you some tools that you can actually put into practice as soon as you leave this webinar to help to protect yourself and your company, as well as give you some industry best practices that you should be considering highly in your business. I like to start with some frightening statistics because really, let's get an idea about the breadth and the scope of this problem. An FBI 2013 report on cybercrimes shows that cybercrime jumped over 49% in just that year. It continues to jump year upon year. In that year alone, they had over 250,000 consumer complaints of cybercrime with a dollar loss of nearly $800 million in the USA alone. Every single day, over 600,000 Facebook accounts are hacked. That's like one every 40 milliseconds. And cybercrime globally is estimated to be a $500 billion enterprise. That rivals drug trafficking, gambling, and prostitution combined. Cybercriminals are at the forefront of innovation. I mean, really, if you think about it, thieves in general have always been relatively innovative. You know, they need money, they want money, and they want to find the easiest way to get it, and for them, that is to just take it. So there's been quite a development over the last 100 or so years, where first you just jump on a horse and run down a train that had some money on it and take it. Then, we got a little bit more sophisticated with our security practices. So crooks got a little bit more sophisticated with how they steal things from people. And again, now we've moved a lot away from paper money to most things just being like numbers. In fact, we even have Bitcoin nowadays. So as things become more and more and more complex, as security becomes more complex, the cyber criminals are rising to the occasion, and they are also becoming more and more innovative to consistently overcome whatever security precautions we're putting in the way. Now, the two numbers that I have listed here are really important and very salient. The first is 135. That is the number of average security incidences that were detected in an organization in 2013. That was actually detected. I'm going to say that again, detected. And then the next number is $1 billion. That is the amount of reported funds stolen from American businesses in 2014 alone. And you say, okay, this is crazy. Really? I mean, how is this even happening? Well, there's this huge digital underground. You want to hire a hacker? You know what? You can do that now. There's a website where you can go to, and you can go ahead and hire yourself a hacker. If you want to break into somebody's email, hey, that'll cost you $400, but you can get it done. Would you like to hack into somebody's website? Maybe insert some malicious code there so that they, somebody goes there and gets infected. $300 gets you that. Do you want to take your competitor's business down for a day by sending a denial of service attack so their internet goes completely down all day, or maybe shuts their e-commerce site down so nobody can get to it? Not a problem. $700 will get that done for you. You can even purchase credit card details online for between $2 and $90 a record. And what can you do with those credit card details? You can buy yourself a card cloner for a couple $1,000s and clone credit cards or ATM cards. They even make fake ATMs. This picture over here to the right is actually a device that sits on top of a keypad, and the user would come in and put their credit card, their ATM card in there and type in all their PIN information, and all that information would be immediately sent back to the hacker. You can even purchase and design fake online stores. That's another entrepreneurial way that cyber criminals are taking money. So you find something that you like online, you enter your credit card details in there, they charge your card, but the stuff never arrives. And let's say that, you're really not that technically savvy, but you'd like to get in on the whole, cyber crime, crimeware thing, since it's such a huge booming industry. That's not a problem. For a couple $100 a month, you can purchase crimeware as a service, where skilled hackers and coders will actually create crimeware, viruses, malware for you that you can deploy so that you can get in on the game too. It's really a huge booming industry with tremendous amounts of innovation. Let me just give you a couple of examples really quickly. I had mentioned on the last screen about how you could just get this card cloner and with credit card details or ATM details make yourself some cards. Well, there were some Ukrainian hackers that stole all these debit cards, and they went ahead and with a card cloner created a bunch of ATM cards. They sent their mules out into New York City's ATMs, and they canvassed the city and went to a whole bunch of these ATM machines. Within the course of 4 hours, they had withdrew $2.4 million in cash. How else are they being, are they at the forefront of innovation? Well, let's see. The Mexican drug cartel wanted to be a little bit more efficient. They wanted to be able to operate more safely. And, the cell phone network in Mexico was really not so good. So they went ahead and just erected their own nationwide cell phone network. Another one that is particularly salient because we have some customers that do have escrow companies. There was a $1.5 million cyber heist that completely blew out this escrow firm. And there's even a way for you to be able to hire companies out there that will do cyber espionage and completely destroy your competitors. There are too many examples out there. But the thing is, really, is that you only hear about the big stuff, right? You hear about these big name companies that are getting hacked, like Apple, Target, Home Depot, Walmart, Neiman Marcus. The thing is that a lot of businesses don't actually report the theft of money or data because they are embarrassed. And it's too hard for Target or Home Depot or Neiman Marcus to be able to cover that up. It's newsworthy. They're going to talk about when $100,000 plus is missing. But what's the impact on your company if just $10,000 went missing forever? And maybe you're going to think that you're protected by something that you either have in your network or insurance or a bank. We're going to talk about later how that might just be a misplaced trust. One of my friends up in New York City, who is another CISSP, his name's Raj Goel, he's also a member of InfraGard, and this is his FBI special agent, George, that he works with. And George was telling me, he knows, there's really only two kinds of people out there. The people who are about to get hacked and those who'll be hacked again. He says it's simple as that. Either you've already been hacked and you don't know it, because most firms do not have the capability to detect breaches or data theft, or there are those that are actively being attacked by your competitors, by criminals, or by foreign governments. This is a real and present danger. The U.S. Director of National Intelligence ranks cybercrime as the top national security threat, higher even than that of terrorism, espionage, or weapons of mass destruction. Last year alone, the FBI notified 3,000 U.S. companies, ranging from small banks, major defense contractors, and leading retailers, that they had been victims of cyber intrusion. Now, I want to underscore this in this fashion. First of all, I want to let you know that that was just companies that the FBI found out that they were being intruded upon first before they figured it out. Secondly, the only reason why it was banks, major defense contractors, and leading retailers is because the FBI was actually looking at patterns in those areas, which is the only reason why they found those actors working. That's 3,000 companies. My guess is that there are multitudes more that they have no idea about. A PricewaterhouseCoopers 2014 Cyber Threat Report. Actually, this report was co-sponsored by Carnegie Mellon University right here in Pittsburgh, the CERT division, their Software Engineering Institute, put out this statement. One thing is very clear. The cybersecurity programs of U.S. organizations do not rival the persistence, tactical skills, and technological prowess of their potential cyber adversaries. To me, that's an extremely bold and scary statement, because we keep trying to say things like, it's not me, or it's not going to happen to me. It's just not the case. From my special agent, Michelle Pirtle, who I work with at the FBI, she told me that particularly, just to help you to understand about how it's not just pimply kids, who are trying to have fun in their parents' basement. It's not just, hackers in Latvia or some kind of, Baltic nation, but actually large governments are actively trying to get our data and our information, our intellectual property. She said that China's actually 5-year growth plan for growth and innovation are in healthcare or biotech, advanced materials, agriculture, alternative energy, and IT or communications. On the right side here, what you see is a picture of the building, Unit 61398, of the People's Liberation Army in China. And that is a map of the exact location of that building. That building houses 2,000 people whose full-time job every day is to try to hack into and steal your data. That's how serious this is. So I do still hear, even though I say this and I preach this all the time, I still hear, it's not going to happen to me. My company isn't big enough. I only use my computer for checking email. I don't store information that's important on my computer. The hacker wouldn't want anything to do with my PC. And you know what? When I think about that, it reminds me of one of my first jobs out of college. I actually worked in the death industry. I sold cemetery property. Talk about a glamour job. That's right. I would sit there, and after I would help a husband whose mother or wife had just died, I'd say, okay, let's talk about some plans for you. And he'd say, oh, I'm not going to die. Oh. And really, this actually would happen. Grown men would sit there and look me straight in the eye and tell me that they're not going to die with a straight look on their face. And obviously, to everyone on the phone right now, that sounds absolutely ridiculous and kind of silly, doesn't it? Well, that's kind of the way I feel after I present this to people, and they're like, it's not going to happen to me. Of course it's going to happen to you. Your computer is valuable to these guys. Why? Because you have credit cards, you have bank account information, you have an identity. Your company has important information. And the biggest thing that they love about any PC server that they can get their hands on or their claws into is that they can leverage your PC, your server, and your internet connectivity to attack others. So how does this happen, right? Part of the reason it happens is because people don't have secured Wi-Fi, or they have really, really loose passwords on their Wi-Fi that's super easy to crack into. A lot of times it's social engineering, phishing emails or SMS. Hey, but you didn't know that your long-lost cousin in Zimbabwe suddenly wants to wire you $2.5 million. Oh, hey, look, on my cell phone I just got a text message, and I've won a free trip to the Bahamas. All of those things are social engineering techniques to try to get you to deliver your personal information to a cyber actor. You can also get infected by going to shady websites, porno websites, or gambling websites. They even have schemes where they can reroute your phone calls. Now, everyone on the phone is a business person, and everyone on the phone has a business bank account. If you call your bank, they ask you for identifiable information before they'll speak with you. Very often they ask you for your EIN number, your account number, and the address. Okay, with those three things, if you were rerouted when you were trying to call your bank to a cyber actor, with those three things, they basically have your account in their hands. They also can do these drive-by attacks, which would be like, we call it injecting malicious code into a website. So all you have to do is just type in the address of a website, click enter, and as soon as you land there, it immediately will download the malware or the virus to your computer. Sometimes you don't even know that you're downloading this stuff if perhaps you're downloading a piece of software that you think is legitimate, or maybe it's legitimate software from an illegitimate source and they've tacked on some stuff. And when it installs, it downloads a whole bunch of viruses. They're really ingenuitive, too, with what those viruses can do. They can actually log keystrokes. So let's say that you're going to your bank and you type in www.pnc.com. Immediately, that's a flag to the hacker. Ooh, this person's going to their bank website. And then as soon as you type in your login username and your password, they now have access to that too. Most people will say, well, I log into it. I've never heard that happen to anyone. If you haven't heard that happen to anyone yet, that they've been hacked in their bank accounts, then you are a rare person, because most people know someone who has had some kind of an instance of money being taken out of a credit card or a bank account. Oftentimes, people don't even know that they have been hacked, because think about this. If you have the credentials for 1 million, only 1 million people to log into their bank accounts, and every month you just draft $1 out of every single one of those accounts, chances are that very few of those 1 million people will have any idea that $1 was going to a cyber actor. And you could sit back and do nothing and make $1 million paycheck every single month. Fake antivirus is another one of those kind of famous spyware, malware virus is like, Windows antivirus 2015, you've been infected. All you have to do is just pay $35.95, and our program that just came out of the blue will automatically clean it all up for you. I'm sure most of us have seen that before. Some of us actually don't believe it's real. One of my friends, his wife actually did enter the credit card information, and he called me freaking out just a little. I assured him, make sure that you call your bank right now, you cancel that card, and you watch your account for a couple of months to make sure everything still looks good there. So it happens, and it happens quite a bit. There's also a newer wave of malware called ransomware. A lot of us have heard about it because it's been in the news, such as CryptoLocker. That's the malware that once it installs on your computer, it sits there for a period of time doing nothing, and then suddenly it will encrypt or lock your data. So it's not readable, not usable to you at all. It can happen on a computer, or it can make its way to a server. If it makes its way to a server, that's all your data, and it's all gone. Unless, of course, you pay the cyber actor to send you a key to unlock it. As of late, they've actually sent you the proper key to unlock your data if you pay, probably because if they didn't send you the key, then most people would not pay them, and that's what they're in the business of, making money. The number one reason that you guys get infected, or that you have issues happen on your network, is because your employees do dumb things. And sometimes that's malicious, and sometimes it's really because they just don't know any better. I'm going to tell you a couple of quick stories to illustrate some of my points here. This one actually hits really close to home, and it illustrates an area that most business owners and businesses are not prepared for. Back in 2011, Allison Cunningham was fired from her job at Volker & Grix, which is a law firm in Pittsburgh. I'm not sure what the backstory is on, if she was just angry or decided that, that it wasn't sitting well with her or what have you, but she worked with a supposed member of the International Hacker Network, Anonymous, and they hacked into her former employer's network and got a bunch of data. They were found out, and she was sentenced. And she was sentenced to, I know, this is really crazy, 3 years of probation. All right, federal charges, but it's only 3 years of probation. And what's this company left with? I'm not sure, but I invite you all to Google Volker & Grix, and you'll find out that, according to Google, they don't exist anymore. So I'm not really sure, if that was the reason why they don't exist. I can't say that, but my guess is that it was not a positive thing for their company. And banks are starting to blame their clients. This is a very, very poignant story. The CEO of a Michigan-based manufacturer called Experimental was on her bank account online, and she noticed her computer approving transactions as she spoke. She freaked out and called her bank and said, I've got to figure out how to make this stop. Well, they worked with her throughout the course of the afternoon to stop the attack, but by the day's end, $5.2 million was gone. Her bank helped her to get it all back, except for $500,000, and then tells her, sorry, it's your fault. How could you be so stupid as to get hacked by this like this and not have the proper security measures in place? Now, I don't know about you, but for me, $500,000 is a pretty penny. And I don't think that I could really, I don't think I'd be quite happy to know that I'm not going to be made whole again if something like that happened to me. I really like this quote from this analyst at the Gartner Institute. It's frightening for small businesses because they have no clue about this. They just don't have any clue, and everyone expects their bank to protect them. Businesses are not equipped to deal with this problem, and the banks are barely equipped. Now, you really have to think about this from the bank's perspective, too, because they have all of these clients, and they have to make sure that they are protected. But how are they going to make sure they're protected? You can have insurance at a bank that protects against some things, but in the end, people, we're talking about billions of dollars a year, and that money has to come from somewhere. Their health insurance isn't free, and neither is regular insurance. It has to come from somewhere. Somebody has to pay for it, and it's not the cyber criminals. It's going to be you in some fashion. So I want to arm you with 8 security issues that should concern you right now. The first is that spending without a strategy isn't smart. I really hope I've scared your pants off a little, and not because I want to do that in a mean way, but because it is such a huge deal that you do need to be really alert for this. However, going out and saying, okay, let's just spend money on all kinds of stuff to make us secure is not a good investment of your money. You have to determine, based on your company, based on the risks that you have, what the best pieces of security are for you and to what level of security you need. Obviously, if you're going to be a big company like IBM, you're going to use different methods and perhaps more complex and elegant methods of security that you wouldn't necessarily need in a smaller business. But there still is a significant amount of things that you can do to protect your smaller business. 2 and 3 are kind of around the same thing, but they're really important to bring up, and that is that business partners can fly under the security radar, and you can have a missing link in your supply chain. So who are your business partners? Who has access to your data? Your accountant has access to your data. Your attorney might have access to your data. Your IT company certainly has access to your data. What other business partners do you work with? Because those third parties might not have the same security that you have. In fact, I would ask your third-party IT vendor what kind of security that they have. Where do they keep their passwords? Do they have two-factor authentication to be able to log on remotely to your systems? I actually have a story to tell about a bank that we did a security audit for. We walked in and they had an IT provider. We asked to be logged into their server so that we could see how everything was configured. And I was impressed that he wouldn't give us the password. He was going to log us in. Hey, that's great. Okay, don't give me the password. I get that. And then I said, okay, well, we're going to need access to the firewalls and the routers to see how they're configured, to see if they're, configured for maximum security. And he said, I don't have that password. I said, that's fine. Could you get it for us or get us logged into there? Yeah, this guy back at the office has it, except he's on vacation. I was like, oh, okay. So you don't have that password stored in a different place. He says, no. He points very proudly to his head when he says, it's all stored right up here. Okay. Now, I guess you can consider it secured that the passwords for this bank are locked into the neurons of some guy that's on vacation right now. However, it's going to be secured forever if that guy gets run over by a bus on his way back from vacation. And what is this bank going to do if something happens to their firewalls that are linking all their locations together? If they go down, their customers lose access to their money. They can't do business. And that, to me, it blew my mind. But who are those third-party vendors you're working with? How do they operate? And what about your supply chain? Are they also complying with your privacy and security policies? Because especially if you talk about, the regulatory bodies, such as, with the HIPAA, the Portability Act, you have to have your supply chain partners and your third-party vendors also comply with the same standards in order to do business with you. Another concern is the slow moves in mobile device and data security. Mobile technologies are proliferating at a rate, but the risks are keeping up with how many mobile devices we have. And the security efforts are just not there. Many businesses love the BYOD policy, that's bring your own device. Hey, we'll have all of our people use their own smartphones because then we don't have to pay for phone bills, and we'll have people bring their tablets and all those things. But then you have sensitive company information on a cell phone, on an iPad, on a tablet, on a home laptop. And that is you have no control over that. What's going to happen if it gets lost, stolen, or if the employee quits and they're walking out the door with all this information. Do you have an encryption policy in place? What about USB drives and people walking out the door with stuff on their USB drive? And one of the things that drives me absolutely nuts, although I love the idea of the Dropboxes and those kind of cloud file sharing services that are secure, I love the idea because it makes things more accessible and it allows you to do business from everywhere and allows you to scale. However, I've seen individuals at businesses who load their own Dropbox on their company's computers and then will put company information on that Dropbox so they can work from home. They think they're being efficient. All I see is a huge security issue. Number 5, failing to assess for threats is a risky business, and it is. Just a network audit should be done at least yearly to assure that you are complying with industry best practices for security. And it does take a team to beat a crook. Your internal team and skilled external vendors need to collaborate closely to assure that you're properly protected. And always look for suspicious employee behavior. And that's going to be whether or not you have somebody internal that you're not going to get rid of or somebody that you are going to be offloading. You know, that report from PricewaterhouseCoopers on cybercrime does say that the incidents that typically fly under the media radar are inside events. They found when they asked 500 respondents that 28% of them pointed the finger at insiders for cyber incidences. Trusted parties like current and former employees, service providers, and contractors. Almost a third say that the insider crimes were more costly or damaging than incidents perpetrated by the outsiders. And number 8, untrained employees drain revenue. If they don't know what they're doing and they don't know they could be harming your company, then chances are that they will unwittingly harming your company. So you want to know, how can I protect my business? What is it that I can do? And that's one of the reasons why I invited Peter Nikolaidis to join us today. Peter is, as I said earlier, a CISSP. He founded Paradigm Consulting Company up in New England. He holds multiple degrees and certifications in the information technology and security fields. He served as network administrator for a college network with over 1,200 users and has consulted with Chase Manhattan Bank, now JP Morgan, as well as Marsh and McClellan Companies. And he draws his ideas about security for networks not just from his training and from his experience with Fortune 10 enterprises, but also from decades of martial arts and self-defense studies. So, Peter, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thanks for having me, Leia. Great to be here.
Yeah, so today you were going to tell us a little bit about your kind of overarching principles when you think about cybersecurity for a business, something that you developed that was kind of simplistic and easy to grasp.
Yep. Well, I can't say that I developed it myself, but I use it a lot. And also wanted to thank you for using that photo that you have there because I happen to be wearing that exact same outfit today. So, seriously though, I know later on you were going to get into more specific technical things, and my approach is distinctly non-technical. And I go back to the foundations of security, which really haven't changed for thousands of years. And we start with 3 principles, the 3 cornerstones of security are confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So even when I meet with clients and I talk with clients and they say, I'm not concerned about security, I usually say, I think you are, you just don't realize it. Because if we look at security this way, it really affects everybody. So principle number 1, confidentiality. And this is simply put, is knowing that your secret information really is secret. Whether you're talking about employee records, customer records, financial information, intellectual property, trade secrets, all of these things are things that need to be kept secret. And pretty much every business that I've ever dealt with has had some forms of secrets that they needed to keep. Now, maybe they're not always the highest priority. So like construction companies, when it comes to bidding jobs, the process is pretty much the same, from one company to the next. But they are worried about other things. So the next principle is integrity. And again, if you're dealing with any sort of information or data or assets, you probably want to know that the data is accurate. So this could be bank account balances or prescriptions that you're, issuing if you're in medical. If you're writing an insurance policy, you want to make sure that you're insuring the right amount. So the integrity of the data is important. This addresses what you mentioned earlier, the crypto locker or crypto wall virus. What that does is it comes along and scrambles the data. It's encrypted. You can't get to it anymore. So the data is no longer available, the integrity of the data has been compromised. That brings us into the third principle, which is availability. And this simply is making sure that when you need some information, you can get it. This could be you need to check your email. You need to process orders. You need to get into your patient, your medical EMR system, your quoting system, whatever it is that you need to do. If your system is offline, if it's crashed, if something like Crypto Locker has come along and scrambled all of your files, you can't open them anymore, or if you're under a denial of service attack, like you were talking about crimeware as a service earlier. If your system is not available and you can't get to it or your customers can't get to it, then you have a problem, and therefore you care about security. So in every case, at least one of these principles, usually two, and often all three, are very important to my clients. So when you stop and think about it that way a little bit, most people usually start to get a little more of an appreciation for what we mean when we say security. So I thought one of the things that we should do is take a quick look at a recent example and, some of these best practices. And one of them, a good example as to where security went wrong, where a company really didn't take it seriously, was Sony Pictures. And, recently, by now I'm sure everyone's heard about it, how, Sony got breached, and the speculation is that it was North Korea. I personally, I don't really think it was anybody, really doing anything with North Korea, but that's not here or there. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that they got hacked. And when you looked at a detailed analysis of what happened, they were just being really, really sloppy. And it started from the top. You can say it started from the top down or from the bottom up. It doesn't really matter. There were lax security policies in place, and as top to bottom, people were doing really silly things. They, for instance, that movie, the Brad Pitt movie that came out late last year and was released early on video and just, I think, maybe other channels now too, Fury, that's the Brad Pitt's latest World War II movie. That thing is probably worth a lot of money. There's a lot of intellectual property, a lot of value tied up in that. And it was leaked. So these super duper skilled hackers were able to get access to this. How? The data, the files, the videos themselves were kept on a very, very poorly secured public internet-facing FTP server. And FTP is one of the oldest insecure methods of file transfers around. It's been around for just about as long as the internet has. And it was secured with a password of Sony 12345.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding?
I'm not kidding, and this is not the exception. This was the norm. There were lists people found, like some of the information that was leaked on the internet was tons and tons of password files that people just kept around, sitting in Word or Excel documents on their desktop. They had them sitting on their file servers in publicly accessible folders named My Passwords, things like that. This is the equivalent of having passwords written down on a piece of paper, like saying, here's my password, please don't steal.
So in other words, when they went in there, they weren't just they didn't just grab the movie. They were looking for whatever they could find, and then they published it publicly so that any other cyber actor could easily access their network until that was all shut down.
Oh yeah, and the thing is too, yes, they these people who attacked them, they knew what they were doing. They weren't like rank amateurs. But the fact is that Sony made the job really, really easy for them. It's kind of like saying, well, I work at a really high security facility, but, door locks, that's hard. I'm just going to leave the door open, okay? And effectively, that's effectively what Sony did, and it made themselves ripe for this hacking attack. So, they violated a lot of the principles and suggestions that you're actually going to get into in your coming slides.
Sure. So just from your perspective, what does your outlook look for 2015? Do you see things, getting better as far as businesses stepping up for security? What about the ingenuity of the cyber actors? And what do you think 2015 is going to look like?
Cyber attackers are not going to get any dumber. They are getting smarter, and they're learning. We're in a constant evolving cat and mouse game. My fear is that it's going to be just as bad, if not worse. I expect that we're going to see plenty of big data breaches, and lots of companies are going to get hit. We're going to have more credit cards issued to us as they get replaced. I expect, frankly, to see more of the same, because until the pain of doing something is less than the pain of not doing something, we as human beings tend to not want to make changes. And there's a quote that I love by Jim Rohn. He says that there are two types of pain that you'll go through in life: the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Discipline weighs ounces, while regret weighs tons. Now, the way I read this is that, you can take certain steps to safeguard yourself. You can take certain steps to make sure that you're protected and that you're prepared for bad things. Or you can just say, I'm going to wait, and not do anything. So I know you're going to get into an example of insurance. Insurance is a classic example. You can either choose to pay a little ongoing for the rest of your life, and you can also choose to not pay and gamble on, and hope that nothing bad will happen. And what we're talking about and what you're going to be talking about really is very similar.
Yes, I agree with you completely. Not the best outlook for 2015 then, Peter.
Sorry.
It's not your fault. That's why we're out here, to try to make it a little better for businesses. All right, so let's give our audience a little bit of tools here so that they can learn about the best way to protect their company. So I'm presenting you right now with a framework, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. It outlines 5 things that you should be continuously going through a process in your network to assure that it's safe. First is to identify, understanding how to manage cybersecurity risks to your systems, assets, data, and capabilities. So that is definitely, like we talked about before, very much based on your industry and your business. Protect, so match with the risks, match protection that's going to be able to mitigate those risks. And then detect. You need continuous monitoring is going to provide you proactive and real-time alerts in case of any cybersecurity-related events. And then respond. Make sure that you have policies in place to be able to respond to these events if they happen. And then what's your recovery plan to maintain resilience and capabilities after security breach? Now, that PricewaterhouseCoopers report that surveyed 500 businesses to see if they followed this framework, the result, they found that the vast majority of respondents' cybersecurity programs fall very short of the NIST guidelines. And that's a quote from the report. I'm not making that up. They said very short. So that's really not too encouraging, actually. So what is your circle of protection that you should have on your network? Obviously, antivirus, everyone knows that. You need a spam filter. You need a web filter. Keep honest people honest and keep the web piece from stuff coming into your network. Managed firewall to see if and when attacks are happening and making sure people aren't getting past your firewall, making sure you have a business class firewall. Employee training being really huge, helping them understand good cyber hygiene and how to act on their computer, on the internet, those kinds of things. Proper backup being absolutely huge, an encrypted off-site full image backup to recover from a disaster. And, of course, cyber liability insurance. So with the IT circle of protection, my company can do that just fine. We do that for all of our clients. We provide the antivirus, the spam filter, the web filter, the managed firewall, the employee training, and the proper backup. With that circle of protection, we actually find on the networks that we manage that the cyber incidences go down between 75 and 90%. However, for that 25 and 10% that you would possibly get infected or have some kind of an issue, I can't make you whole again. You need cyber liability insurance because the fact of the matter is that it's your business's burden to protect the personal identifiable information that is stored on your network. That includes things like names, birthdays, social security numbers, driver's license numbers, addresses, even email addresses are considered personal identifiable information, or PI. Your business liability insurance does not fully cover you in the event of a security breach or data loss. And if that happens and you go back to your insurance agent and say, I want to be whole again, and you find out that you can't be whole again, that's going to be a really big problem. Why? Because the cost of a breach is huge. You have to pay a company like mine to come in to clean the infection if your network is infected. That might be a computer, multiple computers, or everything on the network. You have the possibility of data loss. 90% of businesses who experience major data loss are out of business within 18 months. You have business interruption. You can't do business because now your network is down. What's the cost of that? I don't know. It depends on how much money you make every day. Theft of intellectual property. We talked earlier about how cyber actors from China are trying to infiltrate networks, and they're doing that because now they can make that same product faster and cheaper over there in China. And you are required by law to notify all customers and patients if you have a breach. You're required by law to notify them via certified mail and give them the option to have their credit monitored for a year. It's estimated that's approximately $149 per record stolen. How many customers or patients do you have? And of course, there's always the client and patient loss of trust. I mean, you are under burden of law to tell them if this happens. How much are they going to trust you if they get this letter in the mail? So let me give you some stuff that you can leave right now and do right away to try to increase the security of your computers and your network. The first is back up your data. At minimum, daily backup of your critical data. Make sure it's off-site. We, at our backup that we sell is actually every hour. It's stored encrypted locally as well as out to the cloud. So you have two locations where it's at, and they're full images so that in case anything ever happens, we can spin it back up really quickly to restore a client, make them whole again with the data. The two is to have better banking practices. Have different accounts for your payroll and taxes and for your operation and expenses accounts to mitigate your risk in case one of the accounts is compromised. And monitor your activity. Most banks will allow you to set up alerts and reporting. So if unusual activity is happening, that you immediately know and it doesn't hit you later after tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars are gone. Change your banking passwords and please make them secure. Tip 3, I can't help you with insurance. That's for freaking sure. Only your agent can help you with insurance, but you need to talk to your insurer to make sure that you are covered in the event of data loss, data breaches, what happens if extortionware ends up on something and your business is interrupted, because there's a real cost associated with that. The highest risk industries are healthcare, legal, accounting, insurance, and banking and finance. So talk to your agent. If you are not covered, then get covered. Tip number 4 is use a strong password. Don't share your passwords with anyone. Do not put your Post-it note password on a Post-it note. Please, dear Lord, do not put your password on a Post-it note. You can have the most secure password in the whole world, and once you put it on a Post-it note on your monitor, it suddenly just becomes something someone can type into the computer. Make it a phrase or a really long word that has letters, numbers, and special characters in it. And when you're going to create that, think length, complexity, variation, and variety. So just to give you an idea about what not to do, these are the top 25 passwords in 2014. Do not use any of these. And if you are currently using one of these, change it right now. I'm going to give you a second to scan that list to make sure that your password's not on there. I was kind of surprised that...
I changed mine from Batman yesterday, so I'm good.
Right. I think it was kind of funny that Michael hit that list. Yeah, who knew that was going to be one of the top 25 passwords? All right, tip number 5, upgrade your security. Make sure that all of your systems, your Windows, your applications, your Java, etc., make sure it's patched. Those patches are basically holes that patch breaches in the system, your applications. Make sure your antivirus is current and up to date. Implement a good business class firewall. Make sure that your mobile devices, like your iPhones, iPads, laptops, etc., is password locked. Your hardware is replaceable. Your client's privacy is not. And make sure that you have a acceptable use or technology use agreement in place with your staff so they understand the things that they should and should not be doing. And then something really easy is to make sure you have user account controls enabled on computers, because even though a lot of people don't like it because it pops up and says, oh, do you want this to happen to the computer? You know what? It catches things and you're like, wait a second, maybe I don't want this program to install on my computer. It's much better than it just happening and then you having an infected computer. Tip number 5, common sense security. Train your staff on social engineering. Know the source if you open an email. Be smart about the physical security of your servers, your firewalls, your computers, your laptops, your iPhones, your iPads. Make sure that you consider physical security. In this picture right here that I took at a coffee shop, that's right next to a door. And no one's sitting there. So you could easily just kind of walk over there, grab one of those laptops, and continue right on out the door without anyone being the wiser. Be concerned about wireless hotspots and hotel internet. Hotel internet, Wi-Fi there is very often hacked. We actually, when my partner and I were traveling, one of our computers was actually infected from a hotel Wi-Fi. And it was a legitimate hotel Wi-Fi. Also, if you're in an airport, you see free internet, click here, or, Pittsburgh Airport internet, click here. There is a good chance it's actually not Pittsburgh Airport internet and it is a cyber actor. You'll connect to their network and they have access to your computer. Be very wary of public hotspots. Consider where your equipment is if it's on off-site locations. And have some way to be able to discover the device or disable it if it's lost or stolen. Encryption, LoJack, Find My iPhone, whatever it is, so you can make sure that if it disappears, that you have a way to mitigate against that. So all you needed in the 90s was basic firewall, antivirus, tape backup, and the Macarena, right? Yeah, we all did that. I know we did. It's okay. I did it too. Today, though, that just doesn't cut it. So what is next on your agenda? The easiest thing for you to do after you go back with those 5 tips and change stuff is to get a security audit. Now, generally, we offer that for $19.95. Today, though, if you sign up for it, we would come and do a security audit of your network for $9.95. You can claim this by emailing me at leia@intechit.net or giving me a ring at 724-858-2814, and we'll schedule an on-site pre-audit meeting, and then we'll send an engineer out to your office to audit your network for security. We'll discuss the findings of the audit with you and give you recommendations about what you can do to comply with industry best practices. Now, basically, one of two things is going to happen when we do this for you. You'll love the plan, but decide to implement it on your own. And hey, you know what? That's fine. Because really, the most important thing for us is that you are aware of this and you're complying with best practices. Best of luck, and let us know how you're doing. Or you love the plan and you ask us to help you to get protected ASAP. And if that's the case, we'll knock it out of the park for you, and that's a promise. Now, to sweeten the deal, if you decide to sign up for this network audit today, I'm also offering you 3 free months of InTech's Basic Care Circle of Protection. That's a $40 per unit per month value, and you get all of those Circle of Protection services we talked about that are absolutely vital in protecting your network. Antivirus, spam filter, web filter, 24/7 monitoring and automated maintenance of your network, managed firewall, a technology use agreement for your staff, and cyber hygiene training for your staff. But that's only if you call me today. So if you're interested in taking me up on that, please do give me a ring at 724-858-2814 or email me. My email's there. So I'd like to take this time, since we have just a couple minutes left. We're getting close to the top of the hour, but we do have a couple minutes left. I'd like to, I'm going to open up the lines and see if anyone has any questions. So hang on just a moment here, and we will open up
all
the lines.
All attendees are unmuted.
Okay, so you're all unmuted. Do we have has anyone have any questions about the information we provided today or the audit?
You scared everybody.
I guess I must have scared everybody. All right, making a list of everything they have to do now with their network. Okay, well, Peter, did you have anything that you wanted to comment on the best practices or the Circle of Protection?
No, the Circle of Protection that you put up really does a good job of addressing, the foundations that we're talking about, as well as some others. And we don't really have time to get into those details, but those really are the essentials, the bare minimums that you need to be having in place. I mean, if you don't have a properly managed firewall, a content filter, antivirus, a spam filter, monitoring, and especially backups, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to have a serious problem.
Yeah, I really love the NIST Cybersecurity framework. I'm a stickler for following a process, having lots of checks and balances and accountability in a business as well as a network. And I love that identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover approach to make sure that you're hitting it, and the fact that it's continuous. I think that is just so valuable. Okay. Well, if we don't have any questions from the audience, I am going to end our webinar, and this will actually be available in a recorded format later today. We'll post that up so that if you need to go back and take any additional notes, that you can watch it again. And I look forward to helping you guys with securing your network. And Peter, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your knowledge and insights.
Happy to, anytime.
Thank you, Leia and Peter. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, Reed. All right, goodbye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.